Classic Libertarian Podcast. I'm sitting down with Jason Stapleton today to talk about his ebook, The Nomadic Wealth Formula, and just talk about a bunch of other stuff. Jason, how you doing?
I am doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. I found out about you very recently. Like, I'm very new to the whole libertarian circle, and I didn't know who you were until everyone started complaining about you on Twitter, pretty much. Like, I knew who your co-host Matt was before I knew who you were, and then when you went on Pete Quinones' show, and I'm like, this guy's got something to talk about, and I started listening, and I'm like, I like this guy. A lot of stuff.
Well, thanks, man. Well, I appreciate that.
You got me working on my own stuff finally. I'm making like this t-shirt. Anyone wants it? This t-shirt is for sale. You know, it's available to buy. The website will be up probably this time next week. So you can stop. I like money. Give me money. Your ebook, Nomadic Wealth. You went over a lot of things that I really enjoyed. Like how to be a salesman, kind of your own story. Like, what was you did the show, so why write the ebook? Like, what was your desire to write the ebook?
Oh, well, I mean, I've been talking on my show for a few years about the need about the coming recession. And one of the things we know is that business is cyclical, economic situations are cyclical. And we were kind of riding on a high, and you could tell economically that we really weren't in very good shape. And I said, I don't know what the catalyst is going to be, but I know that there's a recession coming. And I said, if history is any guide, it's going to be worse than any recession we've ever seen. More people are going to be out of work than have ever been out of work before. Because if you look back from the 1980s all the way till the most recent collapse prior to COVID, which was the housing collapse, every single recession had been worse. And instead of solving the problems and resetting the economy, our central banks and our governments had just made it worse. They'd patched over the problem. They'd hidden it through really creative financial games that were not healing the economy, but were just allowing it to continue. I talk about it like it's a heroin addiction. You know, you can be really unhealthy, like at death's door. But as long as you keep getting the drug, you feel like $1 million. And that's the way our economy was in 2020 and the way it is now today as well. But in 2020, after COVID hit and we instantly had 40 million people who were out of work, I said, okay, I've been talking about it for 2 years. Let me try and put some of this down on paper and talk a little bit about what the formula is for creating freedom for yourself, rather than just say, hey, you need to have your own job and you need to work for yourself and you need to kind of be in a digital world, because we're very quickly becoming a digital economy. I said, let me try and put my thoughts down on paper. And so I sat down, I wrote the book in about a month, and it's a quick read. It's not very long. It's about 100 pages. And all I do is just try and explain my philosophy on what creates liberty, how to create the greatest amount of opportunity for yourself, and why I think these principles that I talk about are so important.
When it came to the book, when it comes to the nomadic wealth, focusing on yourself and building your own wealth, there's something about it that a lot of people don't like. A lot of people who are I've been talking with Matt, trying to talk about it, figures out why people are like that. We've kind of tied it to this Protestant notion of let's get in front of the audience and things can get better when you need people to agree with you. And it's something about this, like, it's people who claim to be individuals, they don't seem to focus on their own individual well-being. They seem much more invested in making sure everyone around them agrees with them than they are actually in being off. Like, they have friends in the gulag, but they'll be in the gulag. That's their mindset. And it really bugs me when you see these people who are adverse to wealth and adverse to being independent, and they want to be dependent on something else. They want to be dependent on their job. They want to be dependent on the political strategy and political power. If they really hated political power so much, why do you think they want to be dependent on political power to change things? I can't figure it out.
I don't understand that logically. I understand it emotionally. I understand that they feel as though a person who feels that they have no power, a person who feels as though they don't have control over their own lives. It's very, very difficult for you as an individual to say to yourself, well, if you have no power and you don't make a lot of money and you're not connected, for you to think, well, I can't do this on my own. I need the help of others. I need a group of people who are going to challenge the current establishment and and give me what I'm supposed to have. And I understand that from an emotional perspective, but it's not, it makes no logical sense to me. So if you're going to, if that's really the way that you look at the world, and you need somebody else to help you to get what, to get freedom or liberty for your life, and I come along and I say, no, you can do this for yourself. And they immediately say, I can see the people who have attacked me because I am very critical of people who spend a lot of time working in politics. I don't think that's a valuable use of anybody's time. But there are a lot of people who are not even that involved in politics other than just preaching and screaming about it online. And for those people, what I really don't understand is the attack against somebody like me who says, no, you should focus on wealth and income mobility. And the response I get back is, well, yeah, all you care about is making money. It's like, dude, I thought you were libertarian. Like, I thought that you believed in personal responsibility and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and taking charge of your own life and being responsible for yourself and your family. For you to attack my ideas that way and to suggest that somehow my desire to go and make money to set myself free is an anti-libertarian or anarcho-capitalist belief is shocking to me. Really, it makes no logical sense. And so you can chalk it up to is they feel that when I start talking to them about wealth and income mobility, and they are poor and have no power, they see it as a personal attack, as though I'm somehow attacking them for being in the state that they're in. And I'm not. I'm just trying to say, hey, if you feel like you don't have any power or any control over your own life, if you don't have any money and you don't have any income mobility, maybe focus on those things instead, rather than wasting your time with a political process that most of you reject. If you really talk about the principles of libertarianism and especially anarcho-capitalism, if you find the state reprehensible, I'm not entirely sure how you justify logically the desire to be involved in that political process. But yeah, again, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I've decided that I'm not concerned about those people. I'm just concerned about talking to the people who are already kind of understand what I'm saying at a fundamental level.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very best I can figure it out is that the time management's very weird with these kind of types, because they'll spend all day long on Twitter talking to people who already agree with them, and maybe have a few small disagreements on like the border or like, well, so we legalize this drug first or this drug first, and they'll read all these great books, and it's like, these are great books, they're fun, they're really good, and they're great for helping convince people's minds. But that's all you're doing in time is reading these books and talking to no one new. I wouldn't have the problem with if they were talking to new people and bringing new people in, but they're not even doing that. They're just they're just in a circle jerk with a bunch of
it's worse than that. So I don't discount or look down on somebody who wants to become deeply educated in the philosophy that they espouse and they believe in. So, all of the books that you read on libertarian philosophy and free market philosophy and economics, those are all really good things to do. And I think you should go as deep as you want to and as you're comfortable with. What I don't understand is that not only are they not bringing new people in with that attitude, but the second that they do come in and you get a new group of people who are learning about these ideas, immediately you get out of line, you say one wrong thing, and they'll attack you and vilify you and say you're not a real libertarian or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I get really tired of that a few years ago. And the reason that you hadn't heard my name, because you're relatively new to this space, is because a few years ago I just left all that. I said, you guys are not important. You guys are not making a difference. You guys are, in fact, frankly, if I'm being honest, they're not good people. They're really not. Anybody who's going to go online and chastise you and call you names and put nasty memes out there, and those aren't good people. Those are terrible human beings. And just because they support a philosophy that I happen to agree with doesn't mean I want to spend any time with them.
No, absolutely. Let's talk about selling things. You have a great line in the book. I don't know if it's your line or if it was in quotation marks. Selling is really just communication. When done quickly, it's effortless. I had on Brian, I think it's his name, Brian Nichols. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. He wrote an ebook about how to sell liberty to your friends. And we get a mock phone call about how to call people in the community and be like, hey, do you hate school choice? Or do you want school choice? How do you sell liberty to people? And it's a great ebook. I learned a little bit about selling things. what would you say are some good tips people should have if they want to start selling, not only selling a product that they create, but selling their own skills? Because Nomadic Wealth isn't just about having products to sell. It's about having skills that you specialize that can offer that can make you money. So how do you sell yourself? How do you determine what are my selling points? Like, what is some advice?
Well, selling yourself or selling a product or selling an idea are really all the same thing. And I think the most important thing that anyone can do when trying to sell something is to put all of the focus on the person that you're selling to. I think one of the biggest sales mistakes that people make is they end up making it about them. They're like, oh, here's what you should focus on. Here's what you should think is important because this is what I think is important. Here's why you should buy this for all the reasons, not necessarily because those are the things that interest them, but those are the things that interest you or I. And one of the things I teach my clients when we get to the point where it's time to start selling is I say, everything is about them, their wants, their desires, their needs, has nothing to do with you at all. You are, I think a lot of times people position themselves in a sales environment as the hero. Oh, here I am. I'm going to fix your problems, or I have all of the answers. And if you'll just listen to me, then I'm going to square everybody away and the world will be a better place. And if you don't listen to me or you don't agree with me, well, then obviously you're just an idiot and you haven't been educated enough and you need to go read some more Rothbard or, whatever else. The reality is that we should be positioning ourselves as the sage. We are in everybody's life story. We are all the hero of our own story. So let me put it this way. We're all the hero of our own story, right? Mm-hmm. So in your life, you're the hero. You're the guy who's challenging the status quo. You're the guy who's putting the podcast together and trying to build the business. In my life, I'm the hero of my story. The worst thing that you can do in trying to convince somebody of your ideas, the value of your product or service, or of you as a person is to put yourself in the hero position in the client's story or in your prospect story. Instead, if you can think about it like Star Wars, because everybody kind of knows Star Wars. Yeah,
I did a month of Star Wars podcast. So.
Yeah, okay, so great. So in Star Wars, Luke Skywalker is the hero. He's the guy who comes in and saves the day. Who's the sage? The sage is Yoda. Yoda is a minor side character, but you see, Luke couldn't have done his job. He would have never been able to harness the Force to go and defeat Darth Vader had he not met Yoda and been trained by Yoda. When you're communicating your value or the value of your product or ideas to somebody else, it's really, really important that you be the Yoda and you don't be the Luke Skywalker because it turns people off.
That is some good advice. Be the sage. I like that. I like that you couch the selling terms in hero's journey and that like impressed. I'm always impressed listening to your podcast.
Thanks, man.
I don't know. I go to your podcast and your YouTube stuff, like how to make a website, all that stuff. Like when I'm working on my website, I watch your videos. Like I go to you a lot on all your content to figure things out. And so, I'm very happy and very happy to be talking to you today.
Thanks, dude.
How would you when it comes to determining your skill set? One thing I've been trying to figure out. I was going to school. Go get economics degree, go get a PhD and be a teacher. Now I'm not so sure because I'm not so sure the way things are done, given the new way things are going to be done in the future, if typical teaching jobs are going to be around. And even if they're all online, the demand's going to exist. And what your podcast, your last podcast you did about the Dow of the Nomadic Wealth, talk about the new fourth turning, all this new stuff coming out. Where could someone go to get more information? Because you're kind of front line on that, but where are you getting your information on this whole like blockchain and all of the crazy technology? Like, where are you getting your information from?
Man, I do a lot of reading and a lot of listening to random stuff. And you're the third person who's asked me, where can I go? What podcast should I listen to find out more about this stuff? I am a voracious reader, and I'm also really inquisitive. I think you have to have an inquisitive mind. You have to be interested in stuff. You have to not just want to know that something works. You need to know, at least in some areas of your life, and you need to want to know how that works. You need to be fascinated by something. And whenever I get fascinated about something, I end up reading everything I can find on it. I end up listening to a bunch of podcasts and stuff on it. I end up talking to a lot of people who know a lot about it in trying to formulate my own opinions. Now, that's not very helpful for your audience. So let me give them a couple of specifics. So one of the best books that I have read on this is a book called Life 3.0. It's was created by a guy or written by a guy named Max Tegmark, Tegmark. And this is about artificial intelligence and where we're going in that world and what it's going to look like as artificial intelligence becomes a bigger part of our lives. And it's very much coming. A great podcast, just a fantastic podcast that I listened to a while back, and I didn't even find this one. It was recommended by one of the members of our Nomad network. Is called. Let me grab it for you. This was on my. Let me grab it here and figure. It's called Micro Voices. And it is episode 286 and 285. It's a two-parter. So it's called, Macro, M-A-C-R-O, Macro Voices, episode 285 and 286. Was great for people, anybody who's interested in decentralized finance or interested in autonomous organizations, which are two things that I've talked about recently. And then if you want to know about the fourth turning and kind of where we're at and kind of our life cycle, and then I would just go read the book, The Fourth Turning. It's not very difficult. It doesn't take very long. And it's that'll give you kind of a jumping off point, and that at least sets you up so you have kind of a basis of a foundation of knowledge.
Yeah. You talked about finding niche markets and selling to your needs. One of the things I've noticed, as I was reading this book, I was trying to take these ideas and apply them to other people and see, okay, these are ideas that work and how to make money and how to be successful at selling things. What are people who are selling things doing right, like Dave Smith, Tom Woods, and what people doing who are not working? And I looked at a lot of these new Liberty podcasters, people who I'm friends with and I like. And one thing I noticed about a lot of these people is that they're trying to fill a market that already has someone in it. They're all trying to be Dave Smith and Tom Woods. And it's like, they're already there. You're trying to beat Dave Smith at his own game. That doesn't seem a very effective strategy. Like these.
Well, yeah, because you can't beat Dave Smith. There's only one Dave. Yeah. So the broader question that you're asking is, well, we don't need another libertarian podcast, so you shouldn't even start one. And that's ridiculous because there's a ton of stuff we don't need. We don't need another news program. We don't need another sitcom. We don't need a lot of things, but people stand in line. People who are hungry for the content that you're producing will stand in line and look for it. But the problem with most people is they look at what Dave is doing and they say, well, the way Dave runs his show and the way Dave talks and the way Dave acts, well, that works. So I'm going to try and copy that. And that's a failed strategy. You got to be yourself and you got to be wholly and completely authentic. And a lot of things that these shows miss is that you need a higher purpose. Now, I know they may think that they have a higher purpose in the show, but when you really dig into it, it's not well established. It's not well understood. And so they don't get the traction that a lot of other shows, successful shows, will get. And some of it is literally just about longevity. So Dave's been doing his show either as long as me or maybe even a little bit longer than me. So that puts him at about the 7-year mark or so. And he and I have been friends for many years. And I remember when his show was very small and he was trying to grow it. And I knew he was good from the beginning, but it just takes time to build something. And most people don't have the patience or the discipline to see something actually work, which is good for the rest of us because, they're going to fade off. They fall into obscurity. And a lot of them don't have anything interesting to say either. So they just regurgitate everything else that they've heard on the 5 other podcasts that they listen to, and they get the same guests that the other podcasters have. And it's not, if you're getting the same guests that Dave's getting or the same guests that Tom Wood's getting, and you are a shittier podcaster than he is, then nobody's going to listen to your stuff. They want something extra or more or different if you're going to have the same guest on, because they're going to want a different perspective. And most people don't understand that they can't just mimic somebody else's success.
Yeah. I said a lot of people when I started this podcast, like, okay, I want to do one for a while, like for a year and a half. I was like, even when I was like hardcore Trump conservative, like I want to start a podcast. And I'm glad I didn't do it then because I have a weird like history. Well, maybe it'd been fun because you could have watched me go from Trump to Jorgensen to this. But one thing I like about my podcast, the reason I do this is I want to learn. I want to learn things. Like I had Stefan Kinsella come on and do explain intellectual property like I'm 5. Like I'm wanting to. That's what I'm having you on. I wanted to learn more about this nomadic wealth, learn about how to be a salesman. So I read the book. I'm okay. Well, now I can maybe talk to the guy and learn more directly. And that's what I'm hoping that people who watch this also are doing. I hope they want, okay, well, let me learn along with this guy. Because I don't think I know anything. I read like 2 of those books and watched a bunch of podcasts and know nothing. But now I'm trying to learn everything. Hope people can come along with me on that and learn with me. And we can learn together and come out kind of knowing more as a group. And that's what I'm trying to do with the podcast. And I hope I'm doing it, but I don't know. Excuse me. When it came to your ebook and it came to writing the emphasis of nomadic wealth, being able to travel around and stuff. When I first heard that, I have a friend who's like that. You know, when he's getting his degree and getting his engineering degree, he's like, I can travel anywhere I want to be for work. And so he's like, if things go bad, I can just leave. And then my hardcore Trump days, they're like, oh, you're just a coward, not going to stand by America. I was an idiot. You know, these ideas of people who want to survive and be better off for their own family being cowards is insulting and terrible. And I know that a lot of these people don't like the idea where it's like, oh, they won't let you leave, or they won't let you leave. They won't let you. You're not allowed to leave. Why would you want to leave? Like, I don't get that. Like, what do you think it is? The people who have this, I really, how do I put this? A lot of people have a really disdain against the idea of people wanting to leave and be better off somewhere else. Like, why do you think that is, though? I can't.
I think that there's we have a deep nationalism here in America, which I mean I don't begrudge anybody who says I would want to stay and fight. Most of those people are keyboard warriors. Most of them are they're gonna fall in line when the chips are down. And they like to talk a lot of trash because it makes them feel like they're powerful and like they're gonna do. I mean, I know real killers. Like I know real dudes who will mess your world up, right? And you know, the most of the guys that you're gonna meet who talk like that and who chastise you for wanting to leave, they've never been in a war, they've never been shot at, they've never seen what civil strife does and what a collapsed economy does to a world and to a nation. If they did, they'd have a very different tune. And so I don't really care about those people because I'm not trying to convince anybody. But I think that a lot of times people hear this principle of nomadic wealth or becoming a nomad, and they think, well, I don't want to leave my hometown. I don't want to leave my country. I like it here. America is where my family is. And we're not talking, and I'm not talking about you having to leave. Being nomadic and having the ability to go if and when you need to is not the same thing as living without a home. You know, is not the same thing as a man without a country. I hope we never get to a point where I have to seriously think about scooping up my family and moving to some other land because it's just become too totalitarian here. But if that day ever comes, I want to make sure that I can do it. I want to make sure that my choices aren't fight and die, fight and go to prison, or watch my family struggle and suffer through a horrific civil war. I mean, those options to me are ridiculous or absurd. And anybody who feels like, hey, they want to do that, all right, fine. Most of them don't really understand the way that it works. And so for those people, I just let them go. For the rest of us, and for anybody who looks around and says, yeah, dude, I'm not going to stand there and start shooting at cops or shooting at the military when they roll down the streets. Dude, I got a responsibility to my kids and to my family to make sure that they're safe and that they're provided for. And I can't do that if I'm in prison or dead. And so what are my other options? Well, most of those people are going to get to a point where they don't have any choices because they didn't listen to what I was talking about. They didn't start to create a little bit of nomadic income, a little income mobility for themselves. And so when the chips come down, they don't have the money to flee. They don't have the ability to move, and they're stuck. And so my mission, my goal is just to try and share these ideas with as many people as possible. And for the few who actually want to take action to really control their own lives and to control their own income, I want to help show them how to do that.
Awesome. Excuse me. Sadly, we are running out of time. I only had 30 minutes tonight, sadly. This has been a lot of fun. I have really enjoyed talking to you. Little starstruck. go ahead and plug yourself. When people find your podcast, they want to listen to more, or where can you get the ebook at? Like, go ahead and plug your stuff real quick.
Yeah, I mean, you can get the Nomadic Wealth Formula, the book on Amazon, and just go there and we've got a digital version and a regular version. And then if you're interested in knowing more, we have a community called the Nomad Network, and we would love to have you as a member. It's free to join, costs you nothing to become a member. Just go to my.nomadnetwork.app. That's my.nomadnetwork.app, and you can set up a free account and check it out. We are very quickly approaching 1,000 members. And I mean, it's going to grow from there. So I'm very excited about the success that we've had with it, and the results that people are getting who are in the community, and the value they're getting out of it. So, and then of course, Wealth, Power, and Influence is my podcast. If you'd like to listen, I'd love to have you for that as well. And yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem. Well, everybody, it's been another episode of the Catholic Libertarian Book Club. Oh, I forgot. I always forget to ask this question. Sorry. If you could recommend any book to people, what book would you recommend?
The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Okay, everybody. Well, you heard it here. Go read 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And have a good night. I'll just hit the stop.